All right, so the engine's at the machine shop, getting the car ready to go to paint and body work. So I'm going to do a little video about the books that I recommend you get if you're interested in doing a restoration of an XK120, and I'll tell you also why I recommend these books. The first book here is Jaguar XK120, The Anatomy of a Cult Object, and this is by Schmid, and he's I think he's since deceased, but he was an XK120 specialist from Switzerland. And so this book is absolutely fantastic when it comes to a reference guide for originality. Really went in tremendous detail about a lot of the, I think it starts off with body components and the different types, the drop head, fixed head, open two-seater. And then he gets in on a system basis and goes into great detail about what the markings mean on the casings. So this is a fantastic book to have for originality reference. This is mostly what I use this for. I will tell you one thing, incredibly expensive. I think they only made a few copies, maybe a couple hundred or so copies, I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, these are like $1,200 on eBay if you find one. That's not what I paid for it, but I guess I got it early. But fantastic reference guide for originality sake. Now, this one is actually probably the most important one to get. Thankfully, they made a lot of the XK120 versions, and this is the Bernard Viart, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that. Jaguar XK120 Explored, the plates. And so this is by a French guy, this guy right here, and he has gone through and actually hand-drawn with great detail all of the components of the XK120. So this is not really a book for reading's sake, it's more of a reference guide. And I mean, look at this, he goes into some great detail about, every single piece and component here in the master cylinder for the brakes. I mean, he goes into great detail about things like thread counts and the size of nuts and bolts and washer sizes, and it's just absolutely a tremendous book. Now, there are some minor errors here and there. A lot of those errors are widely known. It gets into some detail on the body. This I treat this as a shop manual. Thankfully, there's so many of these that were made that you can get these for $300. Maybe you can find one $300. I think that's what I paid. Maybe used slightly less. But I bring it out to the shop, so I'm not afraid to get oil on this. And I'll tell you this: there are versions also for the XK140 and XK150. And those are very limited printings. And if you find one of those, you might spend as much as $1,500 on those. But yeah, I mean, just absolutely great reference guide. And just beside being a great reference guide, it's beautiful to look at. I mean, these are all hand-drawn diagrams. Pretty awesome. And I think this is probably a must-have. Like, if you're going to get any book, this is the one to get for sure. Kind of just wanted to show this one off. I just recently got this from a gentleman out over in the UK. H. Blanchard, I believe, was his username. But so what this is a spare parts catalog. Now, these aren't necessarily essential for restoration. A lot of these diagrams that were offered in these spare parts catalogs are actually on like S&G Barrett's website, and I think they're actually also referenced in the manual. So look in the back here one second, see if I can get in. Doing this one-handed. So you can see in the back here that they have these like semi-isometric exploded views, and like I said, most of these are actually they're available on like S&G Barrett's website or Moss Motors, and some of them are referenced in the actual service manual. But there's also some references to part numbers. Some of these numbers are relevant, some of them are no longer in use. But just a great guide for trying to figure out exactly how everything's interconnected. Man, I gotta tell you, this one's in fantastic shape too. Finding original versions for the fixed head coupe are very uncommon to begin with, but let alone one in this condition. So very happy to have found that. So this is a supplement to what they call the J8 publication. So this is just addressing the fixed head coupe body components. The actual spare parts catalog, which I'll show you next, is every other component common to both the fixed head coupe. Actually, I think the fixed head coupe, drop head coupe, and also the open two-seater. And here's the J8 publication. This is actually a first edition. You can tell based off of, I think, the telephone number, which edition it is. So this would actually have been a little old for my car. This would have come with the 50s, early like 50, 51 would have been more appropriate for. But again, you know, these exploded diagrams are great to kind of learn everything's interconnected. You know, these things are great to put next to like your tool roll in the back of your car. You know, when you bring it to a show, it just kind of gives that extra originality touch. But yeah, again, special thanks to H. Blanchard for selling me these. I've been looking for these for a long time, and they're just absolutely great. Okay, so I said the Vyar book was the most important book. I was actually wrong. This is the most important book. So you need to get yourself a service manual from Coventry, or I should say the original service manual. So what this is actually a later publication. This is not what the originals look like, and this is my in-house copy. I've got a copy that I keep outside that I'm not afraid to get dirty. You know, just everything you need to know about maintenance, engine overhaul, gearbox. The reason I grabbed this one because it actually gets more into some additional models like the 140 and the 150S and some of the sedans, you know. So the things that are common to the 120 and the Mark 7, and I think they issued supplements for the 140. So some of this data in the 120 section is relevant for the 140, and then any supplements are further in the back. So got to get one of these, really important, number one. Okay, so this is the Klausager, I believe is how it's pronounced, Jaguar XK120 in detail. You know, another fantastic reference guide, some history. Why I like this book, or I should say what I usually reference the most in this book, it has these great appendices in the back of the book. And I've never seen a chart like this in any other book to where it'll tell you how many varieties there are of, you know, here's the paint colors, here's the interior trim, and how many different varieties there were of the different models that they put out. So, like for example, let's see here, fixed head coupe, the paint color. Let's say you had black with a biscuit interior. They made 30 of those. They made 295 the black with the red interior. So this is actually, I believe, from the perspective of the concours judging for Jaguar, this is the reference guide for what constitutes originality as far as color schemes. So besides that, I mean, great book, other great reference information, just worth getting, probably $50 range, you know, definitely one you want to have. All right, this is another great reference guide by Philip Porter, who's done a lot of great stuff on Jaguar XK120s and other XKs, I believe. Again, another great reference guide, visually stunning book. This one's broken down by category here. So at the top, you know, body shell. You know, let's see here. You know, body trim, and then what this one does is it goes by model. So they'll start with the alloy on some of the sections. If there's something different with the alloy body, that's the XK120 aluminum alloys. Then I'll go into just the standard XK120, and then I'll jump into the 140, and then I'll jump into the 150, and just in various different sections on different particular subject matter. So what do I use this book for the most? It's got the absolute best literature section and tool section as far as describing which tools were in the tool belts. I mean, it goes into tremendous detail, and a lot of this was done by a gentleman named Roger Payne, who lives in Australia, I believe. He's active on the Jag forums. Man, I mean, he really went into tremendous detail about, you know, pointing out, you know, which tools are original, what to look for, you know, the sequence of which tools would have been available during, you know, what the time that your car was produced. Likewise with the service manuals. You know, here's that fixed head coupe manual I was talking about. Other spare parts catalogs. I mean, he breaks the whole thing down, and this is probably the most up-to-date information you're going to find as far as original literature and tools. Besides that, again, really great information on restoration and originality based on the different categories. This is another must-have. Okay, so this is the Jaguar XK120 JCNA Concours Judging Guide. So if your aim is concours quality, as far as being as original as you possibly can, I mean, this is the guide. I don't know if this is the most up-to-date version, but I do know that this particular version was incredibly detailed, and a lot of people complained about it. I mean, those people are getting their cars judged, but if you're restoring a car, the detail is welcome. So, you know, again, it's broken down by category. Lots of great input, like, you know, in your fixed head coupe, like what kind of foot pad there was. So, I mean, if your goal is 100% originality, this is a must. Okay, next is how to power tune your XK engine. So this gives details on the 3.4, 3.8, and 4.2. I will say that the overhaul section of the service manual gives some great detail on engine overhaul. But with this particular book, there's a lot of additional information. Here they're doing a bearing crunch test on the rod. A lot of great information on clearances. The stuff that we showed in the last video where I was doing some measurements. But this book actually goes into greater detail about, you know, when it makes sense to have, say, a certain skirt clearance between your piston and your cylinder bore when you're dealing with either a racing engine or a driver engine. So this is a must-have. There's some information here I haven't seen anywhere else. So if you're looking to rebuild an engine head or an engine block, definitely get this one. And last but not least, Jaguar XK DIY by Bob Exelby. So he restored an XK120, I think maybe like 10, 15 years ago. And so when I first got this book, it wasn't that intriguing to me. The order seemed kind of out of place. There's lots of advertising in it. But on second glance, as I started the restoration of this car, I mean, I kind of realized that the order of it, you know, it makes more sense. He's kind of starting, it's kind of how he would start the restoration, the order he would take on things. And he's got these little snippets where he goes into some details about some lessons learned. And so I have found this book very useful in terms of, just looking out for certain things as I've gone through the process of taking this car apart. This is one of my favorite parts in the back of this book. He's got an index here of all the parts manufacturers and what they specialize in, and it's color coded to where, you know, it'll indicate if it's an actual XK specialist or if it's just a general parts distributor like S&G, Barrett, or Moss. That's a fantastic reference. He's got some other good information here in the appendices. He's also got good information about what he's got in his shop, you know, and like the kinds of paints and solvents and cleaners and things like that he uses. Oil types. He goes into some detail about modernizing the maintenance schedule. Following the maintenance schedule in the service manual's really not practical today. So he kind of offers a correction on how to do that. I shouldn't say correction, but his input. Really good book. I mean, I've learned so much from this book just flipping through it. I recommend you read this one from front to back rather than trying to pick out sections kind of as you work through your restoration, because it will follow in some kind of order the kinds of things that you'll approach. So definitely want to get a handle on that one. Good one. All right, so that's basically it. Just an update on the car. Last night I was just stripping out everything here in the engine bay. It's not really good video. It's not really entertaining to watch me rip stuff out, so I really haven't been covering that. But just to kind of give you an update, so we pretty much got the engine bay all cleared out, all the electrics, all of the the valances, we got those out. The air cleaner, got that out. So pretty much what's left on this, on the front, is the brake master cylinder, all the brake lines. So we're gonna get that out. And then windshield, trim, just some more stuff on the inside. And that pretty much is it as far as what I plan to do with the body before prepping it to go off for paint. Yeah, just an update on where this is at. Apologize for the mess. But I hope to get it out in a month. And then we probably won't see this car for another 6 to 8 months. So plan is to get the engine back, start putting that together here next month. Maybe get the frame back for the car, put the engine on it, get the engine, start to test it, make sure it's running right. So that's kind of what the next 6 months look like for the car restoration. So anyway, appreciate you tuning in, and you know, subscribe if you like what you see. I plan on posting content periodically here, probably once a month, so appreciate it. Thanks.